You've got to target the right audience. You've got to be Matthews Bowes putting an ad in an archery magazine very targeted to your audience.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
There are currently a lot of appraisers trying to get some private work right now, and rightfully so. I think that's what we do when the lending work slows down. I want to give you a couple helpful hints today that I hope will help you. I want all of my listeners to be super successful out there, and I want it to start with their software. Of course, Alamode is a sponsor here, and it is the software that will allow you to be most efficient at what you do. Check them out by going to the web and typing in alamode.com, or you can pick up the phone and call them at 800-ALAMODE. Of course, we are also sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP is the insurance that I use for my E&O. It's the one that you should use as well. Many, many benefits by using OREP. Check them out by going to orep.org. Okay, folks, shocker, things have slowed down a little bit on the lender side. If you are a mostly AM sleaze, Freudian slip, folks, I'm going to leave that one in. If you are mostly an AMC client or provider rather, and or direct lending, you have noticed over the last couple of weeks, months, things have slowed down just a little bit. For some of you, they have slowed down a lot. And it's understandable, of course. I don't need to go through the details and the reasons here. If you watch the news, you understand that interest rates are up. The Fed is trying to control inflation. They're not succeeding, but they're trying. And they're doing so with the prime interest rate. And of course, that affects everything from car loans to home loans. And of course, home loans will affect your business if you are an appraiser like me that spends most of your time dealing with lending, providing services for lending. And all of us collectively have seen a pretty big slowdown. There were in the beginning pockets that were actually busier or at least remained steady, but I think that has changed quite a bit. I think that most everybody across the nation, I haven't talked to anybody lately who is up in volume, who is doing lender work. Now that's key. Notice what I said there. I've not talked to anybody who is up, and here's the key, who is doing lender work. Now, I do talk on a regular basis to my clients who have decided over the last couple of years to focus on non-lender work, focus on building their network of real estate agents and attorneys and homeowners who are repeat customers. And folks, I'm telling you, and this is not made up, I don't share confidential data, but I can tell you with confidence that those appraisers who have focused their attention that direction in the last little while have indeed seen, most of them, an increase. They at least have not seen a decrease, but most of them have seen an increase. Why? I don't know. Why private work increases when lender work decreases? I don't know. I guess there's probably some reasons for it. If we really sat down and parsed it, we could find out the reason. It mattereth not to this episode. What does matter to this episode is my question for you. And that question is, where are you on this scale? Now, I talked a couple of weeks ago on this microphone about how it is not too late. And I'm going to reiterate that today. It is not too late to switch your focus to non-lender work. Again, I'm not going to go into details because of confidentiality, but I know of at least one of my clients who has seen a huge difference in volume over the last couple of months because he has focused specifically on non-lender work. He stopped going after the lender work, and he did some amazing things. And by the way, he worked his butt off to get there. This is not easy. I'm not going to sit here on this microphone and say, hey, you know what, just switch your focus to non-lender, and all of a sudden butterflies come out and rainbows appear and double rainbows appear and lollipops float through the air and unicorns are jumping over the lollipops. That's not how this works. This is hard work. Principles of finance work the same. Principles of prosperity work the same. In order to get results, you don't luck into it. This is hard work. It's dedication. It's focus. And it pays off, folks. It really, really, really pays off. Now, some of you are saying, but Dustin, I should have done this 2 years ago. And I'm going to say, yeah, you should have. But it's not too late. And I want to reiterate that. Again, the individual that I'm talking about started focusing because the lender work dropped. He did not dig his well before he was thirsty. The principle, right? Thank you, Blaine. Hat tip to you for that one. Dig your well before you're thirsty. However, if you failed to dig your well before you were thirsty and you're still thirsty, dig your well now, damn it. Okay? It's still not too late. And I'm telling you that those who are shifting, here's the deal, folks. I'm sorry. I know this episode is going to have a wide listening audience. We get thousands of appraisers across the nation listen to this. So I'm sorry. If some of them are your competition, I still don't think they're going to do it. Most of the people that are listening to this episode are still not going to do the effort. And that's the whole point. Even though appraisers are down, I see them sitting on Facebook grumbling about the volume, but they're not getting out and doing anything about it unless you are an appraiser coach client. And all of them are out there hustling. So that's who your competition is, folks. Sorry. But that's what we talk about constantly is new, fresh sources of revenue. Getting out there and making sure that you are known and known as the expert. That being said, that's all just to set this episode up. I'm not here to talk about if you should reach out and start marketing for lender or non-lender work. That's a no-brainer. What I want to talk about today is where. And I want to use an analogy. I want to use the fishing analogy. Okay? Now, most of you have probably gone fishing in your life. And when you go fishing, you do very specific things, right? You don't walk up to the pond and start hollering for the fish and hope that they jump out onto the bank. No, you bring a pole, you learn a little bit of a skill. It's not much. You learn a little bit of skill set. And most importantly, you fish in the right ponds for the fish that you're looking for using the right type of lure. Now, I'm going to break that down for you, and we're going to talk about how that analogy applies to what we're dealing with right now. And I'm going to do so after the break. I want to pause here and remind you that we're sponsored by two great companies, one of them being E&O Insurance through OREP. Folks, I know what you're saying. It doesn't matter, Dustin. Unless I use my E&O Insurance, I'm just going to go with the cheapest one out there. Well, honestly, folks, that's not a bad way to look at it. Because most of us don't use insurance until we need it. But what about when you need it? Will they be there for you? I can tell you with a absolute confidence, OREP will be. Why? Because I've utilized their services and my clients have utilized their services. It's OREP Insurance, OREP.org is the website. Alamode is, well, they're the leader in the world for appraisal writing software. And you've got to step back and ask yourself, right? Sometimes people say, well, too big. Right? I don't want to deal with the biggest appraisal software out there. But folks, there's the reason that they're the most popular out there. There's a reason that appraisers keep flocking back to them. No, they're not held captive. No, they're not forced. They do it because they know that Alamode brings the best value. I know that Alamode brings the most value. I've used the others out there. They're great. Alamode is better. Check them out. Go to alamode.com or 800-ALAMODE. All right. Welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out with you in the podcast chair. We're talking about the slowdown. We're talking about getting out there and getting new sources of revenue, specifically non-lender. And I want to use an analogy today of the fishing analogy. And you get it, right? If you're going to go bass fishing, you don't go to a stream in Idaho in the mountains to catch bass. And I know some of you are going, well, why not? Because there's no bass in the streams for Idaho. They're just not there. Now, there's a few bass in some of the lakes in Idaho, right? But I'm telling you, folks, Idaho is not a destination for bass fishing. If you want to go bass fishing, you go to the south, right? You go to Kentucky. You go to Texas. You go to one of these states that has bass in their lakes. And by the way, I've gone bass fishing, and I spent my whole life fishing for trout in Idaho, okay? I know how to fish for trout. I'm not the best fisherman in the world, but I can catch fish. I truly can. It's pretty rare that I go out and don't catch anything. Because I've done it enough, I know what I'm doing, and I utilize the right practices and, more importantly, the right lures, the right bait, if you will, to catch fish. Years ago, I took a trip down to Texas. My sister was living in Fort Worth, and one of the things I've always wanted to do is go bass fishing. And so my brother-in-law and I split the cost, and we rented a boat and a guide, and we went out on one of the lakes, I think southeast of Dallas. I don't even remember for sure. But it was fun. We had a great time, and I'm telling you that the technique utilized and the types of lures I would never use in Idaho for trout. It was very, very different. But we were fishing for bass. And so that's why we got the guide. That's why we got coached. That's why we got mentored. That's why we were shown how to do it. Folks, I'm here to show you how to do this. had an interesting question on our private Facebook group this morning, and that's what prompted this episode. I don't have permission to use the person's name, so I'm not going to, but the individual is very eager about marketing and very eager about starting up his newsletter again. He's had a newsletter in the past, and he's very eager to start that up again. Well, why? Because, volumes dropped, folks, and he's a go-getter, and he is he's somebody that's going to focus on getting things done. And so he reached out to the group, and he asked a couple of questions, and one of the questions that he asked I thought was very, very important. And again, that's what prompted this episode today. He reached out and he asked, who should my target audience be? Now, I know that seems like a simple question or a simple answer, right? Well, your audience should be the individuals that you're targeting to do work for. But it goes further. See, what he likes to do is estate work, okay? He's done it in the past, and in addition to lending work, it's been the most profitable for him. And so he wants to reach individuals for estate work. Well, if you've ever done estate work, folks, you know that it's typically the homeowner, okay? It's typically the probate, the estate themselves that hire the appraiser. It's not the attorney, it's not the realtor, it's not someone else. It's the homeowner. It's the owner of the home that the home has fallen to. So the question that he had is, how do I reach them? And it's such a great question, because here's the thing, folks, when it comes to marketing, you've got two things at play here, and two things that lead to success or not, right? How effective is your marketing going to be? Because the two things at play are your time, which is huge, and your money, which is also huge. And so I gave him a hunting analogy that I want to share with you, okay? Fishing analogy and a hunting analogy all in one episode, boom, boom. Yeah, folks, it was worth what you paid to come here today. The hunting analogy that I gave him is, if Matthew's bows wanted to sell more bows, they would not get in a car with a loudspeaker and drive around the streets of a city promoting their new bow. That would be expensive and ineffective. Why? Because it's not targeted. No, what Matthew's bows would do is they would take out an ad in Archery Today, the magazine. I don't even know if there's a magazine called Archery Today, but I think you get the point. Targeted marketing. Well, Dustin, how do you target homeowners? And folks, I'm going to tell you, the answer is very simple, and it's right in front of you. You target realtors. Oh, wait a second, Dustin, I don't want realtors. I don't like realtors. Realtors are mean, and realtors bring comps to the inspection. Yeah, folks, listen to what I have to say. You want to fish in the right pond, and if the right pond for estate work is homeowner, the effectiveness of targeting all think about this. Let me ask you this question. If you were going to target every homeowner in your municipality, every homeowner in your geography, and say, hey, do you need an appraisal? We've got a special, call us. How would you do that? Radio? TV? Billboards? What about sending a postcard to each and every house in your jurisdiction? Well, Dustin, that would be stupid. That would cost too much. There's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out there. And by the way, folks, I've done it before. I've done postcards before, and they average about $1 per postcard. That's for printing and stamps and sending. Okay, so just round it off. It might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less. That's $1. If you've got Idaho Falls, Idaho, that has 70,000 people, are you truly going to send a postcard? Now, granted, we're talking households. So what is that? Maybe 20,000 households, 30,000 households. Are you going to spend $30,000 sending out a postcard? And what's your ROI going to be on that? Really? Think about that for a second. Of course not. Of course not. Same is true with the newsletter question, right? Who is your target audience for that newsletter? Folks, it cannot be all homeowners. Now, it might be some homeowners. Some homeowners might sign up for your newsletter. Years ago, I left a card in every single house that I was in, said sign up for our Facebook page where we post our newsletters and the blog. You'll get a few. But the effectiveness of targeting homeowners directly for estate is silly, right? It's likened unto going to an Idaho mountain and hiking up the mountain and going to some type of a stream and hoping to catch bass. It isn't going to happen. You've got to target the right audience. You've got to be Matthew's Bows, putting an ad in an archery magazine, very targeted to your audience. And I'm telling you, folks, the way that you target homeowners is through realtors. Well, why, Dustin? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it does when you think about this, right? If you need to know the value of your home, and I know this is going to sound crazy because you are an appraiser. If I ask you, who would you call if you need a value to your home? Every single one of you listening to this are going to answer the same way. An appraiser, Dustin, of course. I'm going to reach out to an appraiser. That's their job. Just like if you asked me if I needed a home inspection, who would I call? I don't know, a home inspector. Folks, believe it or not, the answer to both of those questions is not appraiser, not home inspector, because most people don't even know those people exist. I mean, they do, but they don't. They know there's appraisers out there, but believe it or not, they're not going to probably pick up the computer and type in appraiser in Idaho Falls, or home inspector in Idaho Falls. They're going to reach out to their friend who lives down the street, who goes to church with them on Sunday, who is a realtor or a realtor, depending on who you are. Okay? I'm telling you, folks, this is true. This is proven scientific fact. Most people reach out, even if they know there's an appraiser out there. They typically don't know appraisers personally, so they're still going to reach out to their realtor friend and say, hey, Joan, thanks for selling us a house 3 years ago. We want to get it refied, or we have an estate sale, and we need to find out what the value. Who would you recommend as an appraiser? I'm telling you, folks, most of the time that's where they're going to go. Therefore, that's the pond that you put the fish in. The appraiser is not the person that is contacted typically directly. It happens. And by the way, as a side note, episode for another time, right? Make sure you have a website and make sure you have a presence on Google. We actually get quite a few leads that direction. But as far as networking goes, folks, as far as the newsletters that you might send out, or the Ask the Appraiser Facebook page, or any other way that you're trying to target and get, and it's not too late, non-lender work. I'm telling you, folks, real estate agents is who you target. I talked earlier about our private Facebook page, and we talk about this stuff daily, folks. There's probably 3 to 4 posts per day, hundreds of appraisers collaborating together for success. You can be a part of it if you're a member of my all-star team. Check out my website to learn more, theappraisercoach.com.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
If you're going to go bass fishing, you don't go to a stream in Idaho in the mountains to catch bass. And I know some of you are going, well, why not? Well, because there's no bass in the streams in Idaho for... Sorry, editor.